everybody, welcome to today's video. This has actually been a very much requested video lately, especially after our adoption of Tiana. You guys have had a lot of questions, so today we are doing an adoption Q&A and frequently asked questions.
Yeah, I think over the last 2 years I've gotten a ton of questions, and I think a lot of people don't understand that we can't answer a lot of them. It's not that we don't want to or that we're ignoring you, but we're legally not allowed to answer certain questions about Tiana or the adoption or the foster. So now we can. Now we can answer whatever we want, but we won't answer everything, of course, because we want to keep some things private. That will be Tiana's story to tell later in her life, if she so chooses.
Right. We will not be talking about the circumstances in which she came to us and why, and we won't be talking about her birth parents in any sort of detail. So
we found her in a flip house. Now, that's funny because it's an inside joke on my Instagram. Do you remember when somebody said, "Where'd the little girl come from?" or something like that? They were being really rude.
Yeah.
And so I just said, we found her in a flip house.
Yeah. So on that note, let's get right into the questions. I have them here on my phone from the Instagram poll, and a lot of them were very similar, so we're going to answer like certain questions in a general matter. Question number 1, we got quite a bit, and that was, is it an open or closed adoption? And the way that the court went and everything like that, that's completely up to us, and we're hoping it will be an open adoption.
Yeah, I think it really depends. I think if I'm going to go a little bit like into it, the parent or parents would have to prove to me that they really want to be inside of Tiana's life, right? And so that's going to be several steps. And I think the way that I came up with it in my head, and of course we'd have to agree, is you'd have to meet with me 3 times, just me and you. 3 times, and then do all the things that you're supposed to do for the court in order to prove that you can be responsible enough to do that. And then we would see if chaperone visits would be available from there and just kind of slowly go into it, because what I don't want is people in and out of her life constantly. So if anybody comes into her life, they're here to stay and they're 100% supportive.
I totally agree. We've talked about it a bunch of times up until now because we kind of knew what the situation was going to be, and we're hoping that it can be an open adoption kind of from an early age, but if not, she will. We always talk to her about being adopted, and also when she's older, she'll of course have the information to be able to make that connection on her own if it doesn't happen while she's younger.
Absolutely.
The next question is probably the most asked question that we received on this poll, and that was, are you planning to foster and adopt more children?
Slow down.
So, yeah, we don't have a plan.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, we will help more in the future. I think that fostering's definitely on the table. Adopting another child, I don't know. I never say no anymore because you never know. But we don't intend to adopt any more children at this point in our lives. But fostering for sure. We would love to open our home to older children because they have a really hard time finding homes after the age of about 12 or 13. And we really like to help them if we could.
And the next question really plays off that. And it was another very frequently asked question. And that was, are you going to have biological children? And no, we're not.
No, we do not intend to at all. It's not in our plans. And I think I just want to tie into that you have to be careful when you word those questions. I'm not mad at anybody. I think sometimes people are just ignorant or don't know any better. But when you say, are you going to ever have your own, especially in front of the adoptive or foster children, that can come off in a really bad way to the kids and even actually to the parents too. Just be careful the way you word it. If you want to say, are you going to ever have your biological children of your own? I guess that's fine. But keep in mind, Tiana is our own. We don't look at it any differently as if you birthed her.
Right. I would never ask anything like that in front of the children. If you feel the need to ask somebody that, it can make the children feel inadequate, as if being adopted you're almost implying is not as good as being biologically born by those parents. So
we actually had somebody word in front of us, and Tiana was present, but she was much younger and thankfully wouldn't have understood it. But they said, wait until you have your own. And we were both like taken back by that. We were like, excuse me, that's probably not the right way to phrase that or say it period. But anyway, so just be careful of that wording. And this is stuff we've learned as well. Mm-hmm. We were ignorant to some of these terminologies and the way to word things and ask questions. So we're learning as well. And so we're helping you guys learn along the way.
There was actually a lot of people interested in getting started in fostering and adopting in my messenger and also on this poll. So a big question that was asked was, how do you get started in the foster or adoptive process? And for us, what we did was, I honestly just Googled how to foster in Charleston, West Virginia, which is our city. And then it had all the agencies, and I just started like calling them and telling them I was interested in fostering. And we ended up going with the agency, with the social worker who had contacted us and came to our house first, basically, and was super nice and supportive. We really liked them. So that's how we picked an agency. People also asked who to stay away from when you're planning to foster or adopt. The foster care system
eBay.
That's the black market. The foster care system is heavily regulated, so I wouldn't necessarily say there's a certain agency you should stay away from, but I would say to find an agency that kind of works with you and that you mesh with everybody's personalities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of a crapshoot depending on where you live, but just get with one, stick with them. It's never going to be the easiest process in the world, but it's totally worth it. Just at all times, keep in mind why you're doing it and who you're going to help. So yes, it is a bit of a process. We're not going to deny that. Do we like sitting in the classes on Saturdays every weekend for like 6 weeks? No, it wasn't the most fun, but we don't even think about that stuff now.
No.
Like, it was totally worth it.
Yeah, after the initial like first 6 months, when you get all that big stuff done, it's much easier. And then also kind of to tie into that, we have researched international adoption quite a bit. And that's where you really have to be careful with what kind of agencies you're going through and who you're working with, because there are a lot of ethical issues with international adoptions from certain countries. And just, I'm not going to get too far into detail. There could be a whole video about this, but just really be careful with the ethics and who you're working with.
There you go.
Someone asked, is it difficult to foster and adopt a newborn? And yeah, we were told that the most people are waiting for newborns. So that would probably be the most like difficult per se age to foster and adopt.
Yeah, I think I'll actually use this to clear some things up. We did not choose Tiana. We did not pick a newborn. We had to foster under 2 years old because we only had a 1-bedroom at the time. But we didn't pick things like age, sex, religion, race. We didn't pick any of that, right? Tiana was literally the first baby to come to us. We said yes to a few others before her, but they never actually made it to us. They found another family, or a family stepped up. But Tiana was actually the first baby that we fostered and the one that we adopted.
Yes. And that actually ties into the next question, which is, did we know that we were going to be able to adopt Tiana right away? And no, we did not know right away. She came to us as a foster and with a possible reunification with a family member. And obviously that didn't all work out. So we actually did know pretty early on that we were going to be able to adopt her. I'd say within the first 4 months, they started talking about it. And within the first 6 months, we knew it was looking like that was definitely going to be the case.
Well, it didn't go that smoothly. It became a possibility that we could consider it around the 4 to 6 month range. But then things happened where it almost came back off the table again. So we don't go into all those details, but there was quite a few scares there where it was on, then it was off, then wasn't so sure. But I think about the year mark, we were 100% sure.
Yes.
And then COVID is what really kept it from happening any sooner than it did. It actually probably took a whole nother year longer than what we thought it was going to take.
It definitely took a really long time. And a lot of people were wondering if we were scared or uncomfortable with the possibility of reunification because we were fostering. And we'll both kind of give you our opinions on this. Mine is, when you're going into foster care, the goal is reunification with biological family when that is safe and appropriate for the child. So if that were to have been the case from the beginning, of course it would have broke our hearts to let Tiana go back to her biological family, but that's what we were there for, and that's what she would have needed from us. So we would have kind of put our pain on our personal feelings on the back burner to give her the best situation for her. Now, thankfully for us, it was the best situation for her to be with us, and we're so thankful. Of course, 100%, we always wanted her to be with us, but we would have been supportive of whatever was best for her.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you had to kind of go at it with an open mind or an open heart that don't compare animals to humans here, but we fostered a lot of animals before fostering a human. We probably fostered over 20 dogs probably. And yes, 98% of the time, no, for us, 100% of the time, they went elsewhere. They went back to another family. They got adopted somewhere else. And it broke our heart every single time. It was never fun. You know, I thought I'd be fine with it. It'd be no big deal. And we know how that first one went for me. I completely lost it. Putting that dog in the back of the van and saying bye. So I think, again, bear with me here. I'm not comparing animals to humans, but I'm just the process of like having an open heart of you never know what might happen or when that child might leave your home again. And so it is hard. It's tricky. You trying to love them with all your heart by also not trying to get your own feelings hurt can be a tricky scenario or situation. But you just kind of got to go at it and I guess be prepared to have your heart broken for the betterment of that child.
Absolutely. And something really big to keep in mind is even if you think your situation is better, you're more financially prepared, you live in a bigger house, you live in a better neighborhood, whatever it may be, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a better place for the child than with their biological parents. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're trying to not like put your personal feelings into it. And you also need to not do what's best for you. You need to do what's best for the child. So there's a lot of research and literature about this that we've read, and that's kind of
I always know like it's a funny thing it's like a funny question. It's like, would you have been upset with your parents if they let Bill and Melinda Gates adopt you when you were a really young child? Would you?
Would I?
I'm just asking.
I think you'd have like you'd have some weird like
I'm
processing issues.
I'm sure, but it makes you think that like money and all wealth and all that's not everything.
Yeah,
but it would make you think for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, just a funny question to ask. But yeah, absolutely. I think that this whole process has opened our mind to all of that stuff.
Another question we got a lot, I feel like every question we actually did get a lot, there was so many repeat questions, was did we change Tiana's name?
Nope. Her last name.
Yes.
Yep.
Her name was Tiana Haven, and then her last name, which we're not going to share for privacy issues for her biological family, we changed it to Tiana Haven Scholler. We loved her name. We think it's beautiful, and her birth mom gave it to her for a reason, so we wanted her to keep it.
And some of her nicknames are Nana, because that's what she calls herself, because she struggles with T's.
Yeah.
And then at school they call her TT, and so and then we call her all types of names.
Yeah.
Rugrat, Rascal, whatever name we can think of. And she listens to. She now responds to all of them because we probably confused her a little bit.
I feel like I call her baby too much. Like I'm like, come here, baby.
I call her baby girl a lot.
Yeah. How much did it cost to adopt? That's a big one too. To adopt from foster care, the state reimburses your adoption lawyer and pays for all the fees. So adopting from foster care usually doesn't cost anything. It didn't cost anything for us, and we actually didn't know that going in. So that was something interesting we've learned.
I didn't know any of that. And when we went through the whole process, being the frugal investor, if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me. But if I were to intentionally want to have had a child, we didn't go at this intentional. We just wanted to foster and help. But if we were like sitting down, like, let's have a child, like we want to definitely have a child, this is the route I would have went. We didn't pay for anything. Mm-hmm. They reimbursed us every month, like some money. They paid for the lawyer fees for the adoption. Yes, it was a process. No, we didn't get to pick which child or anything like that. And no, it wasn't biological. But we literally didn't pay any money. And in fact, we got money every single month. And we will continue to get money every month until she's 18. So I think this is probably one of the most financially savvy ways to have a child, if that's something you consider, and I definitely would, because having children is super expensive. And while the stipend we get every month won't cover all of our expenses, it certainly helps.
Yes, and since we don't need the stipend for our living or for her to survive, so basically we can use the money kind of for whatever she wants, for her future, and she'll actually get it until she's 21. So when she turns 18, it starts going to her, which is great. She can help her through college or whatever she chooses to do. And that was nice. Like we had some benefits that we actually had told them we don't need in the beginning, and they said it was not optional. Like you have to take the benefits; it's a rule. Like food stamps and stuff like that. When you're fostering, you can't turn them down. You have to show them and show that you're using them and keeping up with them. I guess to prove that you're providing for the child what you need. So,
well, the reason for that is they get funding from the government. And if we don't use the funding, then the government will be like, oh, well, they must not need the funding. And just because we're in our scenario financially, I'd say 98% of people doing this probably are not in that scenario. So we don't want to throw off those statistics. Mm-hmm. So that's why they had us do that.
Yeah, a lot of times we got all the food stamp stuff and put it in the food donation bin at Kroger because we felt that we didn't need it and somebody else might need it more. Also, daycare was paid for by the state. We're going to be paying for it now that she's adopted, but when you're fostering, most states pay for the daycare.
Which is a huge expense. I mean, we won't know until now, but I know hearing from a lot of people that I consult and coach, one of their biggest expenses outside of their mortgage is their child care. So just consider all that stuff. If you've ever considered fostering or adopting, these are all pros for doing that.
We're getting toward the end of our questions here, but we wanted to add a few more just so we make sure we answer everybody's questions. And Bolt CRNA, actually, one of our friends on Instagram, asked if we ever got overwhelmed with the responsibility of having a child, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I get overwhelmed all the time anyway, but I've actually really surprised myself with how well I've done with Tiana and being a dad. I think the whole reason I didn't want children for the longest time was because I thought I'd be a crappy dad. Like I'm too busy, I'm too distracted, I have ADHD, and I thought I wouldn't be able to give her the attention that she deserved and my patience level. And while I'm not perfect all the time, I'm doing a lot better than I thought I would. And like again, I surprised myself. So do we get overwhelmed? Yeah, I think any parent gets overwhelmed. But I will say, you know, someone who denied this before, it is worth it. I used to say, there's no way it's worth it. These kids are going crazy. But absolutely, when she hugs you and calls you daddy, you know, it's 100% worth it.
Yeah, and I never felt overwhelmed by the responsibility, but some moments are overwhelming. So, like, obviously when there's 1,000 things going on and it's chaos, and like everybody who has kids knows that there are always overwhelming moments. And then responsibility, I wouldn't say exactly scared me, but being a new parent and like being handed a baby that we didn't like know anything about or know what to do, that was a little bit scary at first. Like we were like going to feed her, and I'm like, can she eat this? Because I don't work in pediatrics like that.
How about
much.
me when you were working nights all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and I had to take care of the baby alone? Oh my gosh. But hey, I got through it and I figured it out.
I guess that's exactly what it's like though for new birth parents who have a baby and then get sent home from the hospital, and then they have to figure out what to do with their baby.
Feed the baby, change the baby, don't drop the baby. I mean, pretty much that's what you have to do to make it through the night. And maybe I've called you once or twice in a panic.
Yeah. And then someone asked, what is our favorite trait about Tiana? And I thought that was a fun question.
It'd probably be for me when, like, one of the newest things is when she does that forced laugh.
Oh,
The really funny laugh, which please don't put that in there. But when she forces that laugh.
Yeah.
But like
when she makes herself laugh.
And how active
so
she
funny.
is. I love that because we're active.
Yeah.
So if she was always lazy and laying around, although we would enjoy that from time to time, we really enjoy that she's super active and fearless.
Yes, she's fearless and brave, which I absolutely love. And she's super caring. Like, she's very caring.
When she kisses Beamer on the head, or just comes up and kisses you like 5 times for no reason.
She's so sweet, and she's always concerned when other kids are crying. But I would say, I think that my favorite trait about her is her bravery and her fearlessness, because I think that will take her a long way.
Absolutely.
And it's really fun.
All right, keep moving.
Should we go get her now?
No, keep moving before I'll lose it.
Oh, babe. And the last question is actually 2 questions kind of tied into one, and that was, how did we decide we wanted to foster, or why did we foster, and also how did we decide we are ready? So you're never ready, and we just one day, literally, I said, hey, do you want to sign up to do foster parenting now? And I was like, do you care if I sign us up? And John was like, I guess go for it. And I said, are you just saying that, or do you really want to? And he was like, I guess we can try it, and that's kind of how that happened.
The way I figured it is like, why not? Like, I couldn't come up with an excuse. While, you know, kids weren't my favorite idea at the time or ever prior, I couldn't come up with a good excuse to not be a selfish or feel selfish. We had the resources, we had the time, we had the energy, and we could help. So why not? And I figured the least we could do was try. Like, if we did hate it and didn't do it after that, that's fine, but we should at least give it a try and see if we can help a child out. And even if we just helped one child, awesome. So that's kind of how we went at it. And look at where we're at today. Now we're advocates for fostering and adopting, and we have our own child.
Yes, and the way that the topic even ever came up was because when my sister and I were little, we were in foster care for a little while, and we actually had reunification with our mom, and so I always wanted to foster, and John and I kind of always talked about it since we were younger. So that's how the idea got planted, like, early on, and then just decided to do it when I was in CRNA school. We were just like, hey, we don't have enough going on, like, we should probably foster a child.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know, there's like 400,000 kids in the U.S. alone, just in the U.S., that don't have a permanent home. So if you are able and you have the resources and you're willing, then probably give it a shot, because you
Yeah.
never know where it might lead. And though, like I said, worst case scenario, you foster and help out one child, which is incredible. So just consider it.
Oh yeah, and also one other thing, I meant to say this when you guys were asking about adopting and fostering more children. There's a thing called, it's in West Virginia, it's called respite, but it's basically relief fostering. So if you are not able to foster long term, or you feel like that wouldn't be right for you, you can sign up, become a certified foster parent, and do relief fostering, which is for like when families who have foster children go like out of the country and the foster children aren't allowed to go because that's the rule of the US, the foster kids can't leave. You can take those children and have them like a fun week or weekend or whatever at your house. So you'll be their like substitute foster parents for the weekend, so that you can keep them in a good situation until their foster family comes back. And that's actually what we're thinking about doing. It would definitely be more of a short-term thing, but there's actually a big need for it because a lot of people don't know about it or sign up for it.
Absolutely. You're just basically a babysitter, you know?
That is kind of what it is.
And I think to wrap up my side of this video, or my part, is that I want to talk about some of the cons. You know, things that people were concerned about that may be true, but I don't think they're as big as a deal as I thought they were going to be. Because a lot of people say, I would foster, but it's so hard. They make it so difficult. And I guess they do, relatively speaking. But you go to a class 6 weeks, and then you sign up, and I think maybe, you know, you wait, and there's
Once
some waiting.
a week for
right,
6
for
weeks.
once a week for 6 weeks. So there is a little bit time involved into it. But some cons would be, you know, when you have the child, there's a lot of rules and regulations you have to follow. You guys probably saw a lot of this where we can't show her face. We can't leave the state without permission. We can't travel overseas to anything that's not U.S. country or territory.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, I guess, restrictions and regulations on us, but I guess those are just temporary sacrifices to help her. So I think just don't always look at it, you know, like we always do. We always do this as humans. It's like, what are we giving up? Look at it as what she or he or whomever you adopt or foster is gaining, compared to your temporary sacrifice. And so that's what we did. But now she has a passport. We got a passport yesterday. And we are going to be booking some overseas trips out of the country very soon, definitely before the end of the year. We're thinking Turks and Caicos first.
That would be nice.
Because we just
Costa
love the
Rica.
beach, Costa Rica, and then obviously we want to take her on a backpacking trip through Thailand or the Philippines. So all those are on the schedule.
Yay. And I feel like this video got really long, but we've wanted to talk about this stuff for so long. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I mean, we've been saving these answers for 2 years. So if you hung in with us, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to Rihanna's channel. She puts a lot of work into it. And we hope this content helps you guys as well.
Okay, see you later.
See ya.